Welcome to the Massive Change Show. I'm Justin Foster.
And I'm Dr. Virginia Lacayo. In each episode, we have conversation with leaders who are getting in some good trouble by challenging paradigms and shaking the system.
And after each conversation, the episode shifts to the second show, where Virginia and I chat about what we learned from the guest.
If you know of any leaders who will make a great guest, please introduce us.
And of course, if you enjoy the show, please like, share, and leave a review.
Thanks for listening. Welcome everybody to the Massive Change Show. Today we're going to have a special edition, so I have invited my partner, Justin Foster, to be our guest today to share with you an idea that is an initiative that he's taking the lead right now. So probably not everybody knows you, Justin, because we are growing in our audience. So about you, introduce yourself a little bit.
All right, thank you. So I have a very long story now as I get older. You know how on those, when you have to put your age in on the website and it has the dates, you got to scroll to get to 1970. I always think about that when somebody asks me, tell me your story. But especially, and I give context because of the idea that we're talking about today, or this initiative that we'll be talking about, the new Resistance Roundtables, is that, you know, I grew up in rural America, no college degree, grew up, you know, dirt poor, and you know, we used to say on the ranch, land rich and cash poor, and grew up, spent many years as a right-wing conservative, Rush Limbaugh listening, you know, never really was a right-wing Christian per se, but I did grow up in a fundamentalist Christian cult. And I say that all for context because here I am at 54, co-founding this company with you that works specifically with people that are shaking the system. And I feel like this initiative that we're talking about today is the kind of a culmination of moral clarity combined with my skills and my long desire, especially since January 6th, the insurrection, to actually do something to preserve our democracy and to preserve our rights. And so that's why we're having this special conversation today.
And today, so because you're a guest, I'm going to ask you the same questions that I asked to all our, what we call the system shakers question. So the first one is, what is one idea that you have, in this case, the one that we want to talk today? I know that you have many, but this initiative about that will piss off a lot of powerful people?
So, as I said, it's called the new Resistance Roundtables, and it is a effort. It really has three objectives. The first objective is to unify the business leaders in our country and around the world, but mostly in the United States, to unify those of us that want to stop or resist the Trump administration and their policies and behaviors. There is no unified front for that within the business community. Number two is as a place to bring all of our entrepreneurial and leadership and innovation skills and essentially use the free market to defeat Trumpism. And I can talk more about that if you'd like. As opposed to trying to go after policies or lobbying or things like that, there's groups that are already doing that are better at it than business leaders because that's their world. But there's things we can do as business leaders that other people don't necessarily know how to do, using business principles and the free market. And then the last objective of this subversive movement is to learn how to be real activists. And earlier today, whenever you're listening to this, it doesn't really matter, but just for context, earlier today, we had our very first New Resistance Roundtable, and you spoke to the group, and will continue to do this, about what it means to be an activist. Because I think that especially white male Americans like myself, we don't really know what that means. Um, and and so those are the three objectives, and all of those are just wildly offensive in the business world and wildly agitating. And so you can pick any one of them, but the general idea that we need to unify as business leaders to resist the administration is the central idea, and this reminder that if we do work together, we are more powerful than them.
Well,
We are more powerful than any political system if we business leaders work together.
I would like you to expand on that. I mean, why the corporate sector? Why business leaders? And what is the
Well,
difference in power that they have? Other sectors
yeah,
might.
yeah. Well, I'll start with this: is that the political system in the United States for a while now has been rigged or designed, intentionally designed, if you will. So I'm not saying it's illegal. I'm saying it's immoral. Um, to benefit Republicans, everything from voter suppression laws to gerrymandering to a whole variety of things. And that's why, Biden winning in 2020 was somewhat of an anomaly um, compared to, the numbers over the years, and not related so much to Republican versus Democrat, but it was an anomaly of the way that the voters responded, is what I mean. And there's two distinct systems at play here. Well, there's really three. There's the government policies, but as it relates to our role as citizens in the country, there's the political system, and then there's the free market. Well, the political system, as I said, is rigged or designed to benefit Republicans. The free market is not. And what I mean by that is you can't control what you give the political system cannot control what we give our attention to. The political system cannot tell us where to spend our money. The political system cannot tell us much about how we treat our employees, customers, and our communities. We have the freedom. And I find it also this kind of relishing feeling that we're going to use business leaders, if we do this, we use the free market and constitutionally protected rights to beat these assholes. And there's something delicious about that if we do it. I also think it's part of a greater coalition of people that are, come from traditionally marginalized groups, that if we were to match up with our business acumen and our connections and our brands and our platforms with the nonprofit leaders, the various other forces that are part of the overall resistance, it would be extraordinarily powerful. But I want to go back to the free market aspect of this. The free market is a complex adaptive system. The political system is not. It's very rigid, and it's very linear, and it's designed to do what it's supposed to do. And that's why we don't operate well within it, as business leaders. And I think it's also important that we use the free market, because I don't think the answer is like European style socialism either. We're just going to get a different version of authoritarianism, in my opinion, if we do that. So we have to show, as John Mackey did with conscious capitalism and other brands that have emerged that are embracing kind of this evolved version of capitalism, we have to show that the problem is not capitalism into itself. It's the level of consciousness of the people in the system using capitalism. And if there's a truth that is a person with power or influence who raises their consciousness also changes or uses power for good. There's a sort of a general rule there that's true. You cannot be higher conscious and abuse power. They don't go together. Like apathy and action don't go together. And so there's a longer thing here. I'll be releasing some articles on various ways to use the free market as business leaders. But that's what I mean by that. It's also the free market of ideas, but I'm literally talking about free market principles in this case.
I might differ a little bit on what you said, but this is what the show is about too. Is I think the political system is a complex adaptive systems as well, because it's always there are multiple interactions and they're not necessarily predictable and controllable in many ways. Otherwise, we
I
probably
think they are.
not be the way
Yeah.
where we are.
I think, well, but to your point though, Virginia, is that one of the reasons Biden won in 2020, besides the fact that, Trump was universally despised, but that didn't change in 4 years. It got even more so, is the laws, the election, because of COVID and the pandemic, there were much easier ways to vote. And one of the things that Republicans don't like, they don't like it when it's easy to vote. And so, other than that, the system is pretty predictable, and it's designed to not change. That's what gerrymandering is. And so we could have a whole nuance there. So I'll put it this way: is the rules of business do not work in the political system, other than maybe branding. But
Okay.
Trump kind of broke that too, frankly.
We can agree
And
on
so,
that.
yeah, but I do believe that the leveraging the free market is a way to resist or even win or defeat Trumpism. I think that's the main thing.
Well, one thing that support that, I mean, one of the beliefs that I have that support that idea is that at the difference, I have a very long story with supporting the nonprofit sector, right? And I've
Mm-hmm.
been working with the corporate sector, nonprofit sector, and the public sector. And the difference is that the public sector has his hands tied in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the, let's say, the political freedom to actually make big changes. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
that level of autonomy. They're very conditioned by constituents, by pressure, by other companies, by a lot of factors and actors playing a role there in making the system hard to change.
Mm-hmm.
The nonprofit sector has a lot of limitations as well because they don't have the economic autonomy to actually make big changes as well. They depend on donors, they depend on foundations, they depend on
Mm-hmm.
governments in many ways. But the private sector have both
Mm-hmm.
autonomies, the political and economical autonomy to actually take action and do some things that might be radical to shake the system in many ways. So that's an advantage that the corporate sector has that any of the other sectors they don't have. And that's an
Mm-hmm.
advantage that has not been well exploited, partly because of what you said, because that sector hasn't learned the skills to be an activist. I mean, to really get organized and do true effective social mobilization other than around their branding and around some of the ideas that the most, let's say, um, bold leaders might have. And
Mm-hmm.
we have a list of companies that are leading, even now, they're leading the protests and they're leading resistance in their own way, but
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't make their efforts, it's not necessarily a movement, it's
Right.
just a community of beliefs and values that they support or they've been supported to that help them to position themselves and to stand out in this situation
Mm-hmm.
against certain policies and practices. But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
different than having a whole sector that is really powerful because, as you said, really what in countries like this, what determines the outcomes is where the money goes and where the money is invested and how and by whom and into what. And
Mm-hmm.
as business leaders, we have the power to make those decisions without anybody telling us much what we can do, what we cannot do. So
Right.
that's a real power for change that we have, but
Right.
it will not happen if we keep doing things in isolation and just like private initiatives like that. We need
Right.
to really
Right.
get
We need to
together
unify. Right. Which
and
is really what the whole point here is to unify that, but unify the business leaders. And I think it's also from a historical context. important to have nuance too, meaning not all people that believe in the free market are like asshole capitalists. And there are highly conscious leaders in the business world doing amazing things, and for years the business and government worked in conjunction with each other, and obviously this still happens in many ways. It's fairly recent that they kind of push back, even during the first Trump administration, related to the emission laws. The car companies even though he overturned the emission laws, the car companies just kept with the emission rules because they believed in it, or at least they thought the market did. My favorite recent example, is the NFL. And the NFL, I think, I could be fact checked on this. I think there's only one owner who is not an old white dude. There's people that are partial owners, but your main force are just a bunch of old white guys. And they were very the flyovers and the singing the national anthem before the game and these acts of patriotism, which are fine. Those were seen as, those were things that were encouraged by NFL owners, by the government, by the Department of Defense, for example. And then the pushback against Colin Kaepernick and other players who took a knee during the national anthem, which is its own story. And then George Floyd was murdered, and the Black Lives Matter movement came into being at a much public, or like in the public conscious. And the NFL did like a 180, and they suddenly were, they had like end racism in the back of the helmet on the end zone. And could it be performative? Maybe, but they did it, and they kept doing it, and that culminated in a couple of recent things that I think it shows the power of the free market to basically tell the government, when possible, to go pound sand. And one was, they released a public statement, very strongly worded statement, in support of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. And the second is that Kendrick Lamar was the halftime performer at the Super Bowl, and they all knew who he was, and they all kind of knew what he was going to sing about as a social justice poet, and boy, did he. And then, so they could have been like, oh, well, we didn't know, but they didn't do that. You go since the Super Bowl, the NFL's social feeds are showing clips, and they're using like this funny slang, like, oh no, he didn't just say that, and talking about the symbolism. And I think that there's a model in this, is that a little bit of awareness about the power of doing something good, and understanding as business leaders that we work for the market. The market doesn't work for us. And the market had shifted. And, it's similar to NASCAR banning the Confederate flag too. And there's this sweet spot between when the market shifts and your consciousness changes. And that's who we're trying to find. We don't want performative business leaders. We want business leaders that are to be part of the new Resistance Roundtable, that understand that the market, that we work for the market, and the market, by and large, if Trump was a product, he would not be president. Mm-hmm. He is president because of the political system, not because of the market. He's famous because of the market, but that doesn't, that's a separate issue. That's a branding thing.
So this, what you're trying to build with this initiative, the New Resistance Roundtable, is to unify the corporate sector around mm-hmm. the values that the market share, and mm-hmm. how we're gonna position ourselves to support the market with the resources that we have. So it's not necessarily a political movement. It's more like, well, it has political implications, but it's not for politicians. Is more for like, let's put our money and our actions where our mouth and our values are.
And it's simple. It's non-MAGA business leaders. It doesn't. I mean, I'm a mostly conservative when it comes to like constitutional stuff, super progressive on social issues. As a business leader, business owner. But this isn't about left versus right. It's not about Republicans versus Democrats. Those are political terms, systems terms. They're not business terms. And this illusion also that there's supposed to be some sort of separation between the business and politics it's an illusion. It's a convenient excuse to not give a shit. And that has to stop. And so I'm not going to be going out trying to convince apathetic business leaders to join us. I don't want them. But it's so I'm not interested or concerned about someone's faith or religious beliefs or political views. There's no litmus test other than we want to stop Trump. That's it. That's the test.
And what it represents, I guess.
Yeah, and right, but that's the whole point of it as a roundtable, and the point of teaching these business leaders about complexity science, which is your part in this for sure, and complex adaptive systems is not one of us has all the answers, but all of us have the answers. Mm-hmm. And that if we pick something or a few things and do them together, that is going to have a colossal effect, a massive effect, if you will.
Especially if we get to get together with a lot of owners from different sectors, from different
sectors, and I want diversity, too. I don't want, this isn't a movement of just middle-aged white guys that don't like Trump, but I do want them at the table, and it's and some of this is. Some of the actions that I think will be unifying are going to be brand related. We are going to have a merch line that will be released. And, but part of that is, yes, to spread the brand, but some of it is to create a visual presence in the marketplace and developing a window sticker and digital sticker and a flag that businesses can display to show that they're part of the new resistance. And also that they're a safe place for people that are often targeted by the Trump administration. And it goes back to capital, too, at that point. It goes back to the capital of ideas and talent. And talented people, innovative, creative people, if they have the opportunity to go work for a company that is resisting dehumanization of people, the resisting the Christian nationalism of the Trump administration, they're going to do it. It's going to become a market advantage, which is my whole point.
And I assume that it's not just about branding and
no, that's just one thing. Yeah,
it's also about taking some actions.
Yes, absolutely, right. But my point is I don't know what those are, but I bet you we do. I have one idea so far besides this round, launching it. I'm excited to hear what other people have to say as we grow this.
Okay, good. I have two more questions, but one more question about that one. So this is not a place to go. So how people can join this initiative and be part of it and shape it? Because as you said, that doesn't belong to you. It's something that you're putting out there as a call for people that think this in the same way or similar way, get together and say, okay, what we do about this? What do we want to become? How we want to present ourselves as a sector?
Well, some of this is intuition and some of it is under your wisdom and counsel about how to do this. That someone that has built grassroots movements many times in your life in way more severe conditions than business leaders dealing with this guy in the administration. And so we're starting off slow. We're going to continue to try to grow the number of people that are participating. And there'll be at some point, we'll create some sort of method for extraction of ideas and then unifying around like an initiative or a particular cause. It could be, maybe I'm not saying this is it, but it could be related to like reproductive rights, or it could be to protecting,
Democracy.
huh?
Or democracy.
Yeah, or democracy. It will emerge from the group. And then we are going to be launching a online community as well, where people can connect. We're gonna implement very strict safety protocols, because one of the things about the MAGA crowd is they try to infiltrate groups like this, and I know firsthand stories of them doing that. And this goes so we want to have very good safety protocols so people feel safe to come and share their ideas, talk about these things. And there'll be a community that'll emerge from this, a community platform. And it's really about activism on the fly. It may be that we start off with something very small. Probably the first thing that we will do is to participate in the March 15th blackout. The shutdown, the economic closing of the shop for the day. That probably be the first thing that we do. But it's these little things, and these little ways of activism, taking action, that then start to culminate and build momentum. And then at some point, we're going to reach out through my connections to other people. We want to get Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn, and Mark Cuban, and Mark Benioff, and Richard Branson, and Daniel Kaczynski, the guy that owns the CEO of Kind Bar. There's a bunch of conscious business leaders out there. They just need a home. And but the main thing is to let it be driven, as the mantra I have for this is, we are the opposition leader.
Mm. So two things. First, if for our friends that are listening or watching this, if you know any of those people, well, introduce them to Justin so they can connect. And the second, so just to clarify, this is more like a community of practice, right? I mean,
That's right.
The idea is get together, decide on what
Yes.
actions we can take together to make a
Yes.
collective impact, and start doing things. It's not about just like getting together to complain.
No. It's not. It's not group therapy.
It's not group therapy.
And that's fine. There's an element of it, but it's really not. It's like, what are we going to do? And those of us that are business leaders, one of our strengths is being decisive. So let's do it. Let's figure out what it is, but in a thoughtful, intentional way.
Yes.
Again, modeling how this is done is really important to me.
And in a strategic way, I guess that is, what actions are going to have the most of the impact, in the short term, but also in the long term, and instead of just reacting and doing a lot of things because we're angry or frustrated or something.
Just rage posting is not activism, and also it's not healthy. So.
Yes. Okay, good. So the second question is, what are the challenges that you are facing building this initiative, but also that you can perceive that is going to be part of the challenges for the initiative itself to grow and to get more, solid ground?
Yeah, it's such a good question. Well, I think there were internal challenges within my own wiring. A desire to want to control this. And an awareness of being patient. And one of my own policies here is, like in the first roundtable that we had, I will challenge no one's opinion unless you're another white guy. Then I'll challenge it. Otherwise, I think of Anne Lamott and her 3 prayers. While things help. Same thing. If you're a woman, a person of color, a queer person, someone that's from a traditionally marginalized group, I'm in no place to question your journey, experiences, and I may offer a different view, but I'm not going to challenge yours. So that's an internal thing. I like to debate, and I also like to be in charge. I was a youth football coach for 15 years, so I do have those like tendencies. The other one is, and I'm being very vulnerable here, but it is having the mental resilience to do this. Is that there's moments when I feel good and I slept good where I'm like, fuck yeah, we're doing this, let's go, and other times I want to curl up in a ball under my desk and go, what have I done? Like, why am I doing this? Wouldn't it be better to just be quiet?
Mm.
I never thought I would feel that way. I've always thought, oh, when it comes to push comes to shove, I'm going to step up. And I am, but I acknowledge that feeling as an internal challenge. And then I think other challenges will be to have a little bit of order in the model of how we're doing this, and some principles. So it's not a free for all, but still have it be liberated enough that it can evolve and grow and be its own organism, essentially, of ideas and actions and results. I think that's a kind of an external challenge. I think there will be pressure sometimes to monetize it. You and I have chosen not to monetize it at this point, and the sense of like products and services. And then the external challenges, they're going to, if it works, they're coming after me. I know that already. And that's the part I'm kind of looking forward to. I'm not afraid of these people. They're bullies. And given the challenge of even a face-to-face confrontation, I have no doubt that they would lose. So
Yeah, and I think that when we're thinking in terms of creating a system, a subsystem, that is um, that is built by the corporate sector and is multiple actors bringing everyone bringing their own ideas and actions, and is action oriented. I mean, it's a community of practice. Then somehow if you believe that and you remember that this doesn't belong to you, that this is something that you're helping to create the initial container and facilitate the conditions for people to gather and to start thinking about it, then all the pressure that we have when we remember that this doesn't belong to me, then the pressure of I need to control this, I need to move it in this direction, we need to agree on this, kind of dissipate by itself, because it's not about you and it's not about anybody. It's about everybody saying like, okay, what we're gonna do, how can I contribute to this? And where I'm not contributing, but in this way, yes, and some other people are doing their part and different things, and we agree on certain things and to do something that everybody's gonna do at the same time. But some people might do their own, let's say, chapters in their own communities or industries, and that is okay. That is part of what we need to become a movement and not just like a private initiative. So
right. But I do think it's important to have standards and principles, and that's why, like on the landing page, it clearly says this is one of the objectives is based off of free market principles, and that's because free market principles are not a theory in the business world. They're the way it's done. It's the language. So this is not about necessarily shaping public policy. It's not a lobbying group. It's a resistance group. And what I don't want to have happen is to get into these long-winded debates with people that tend to have maybe more left-wing views than me about public policy, because it's not about public policy. It's about what we're going to do as business leaders. And you as a business leader, if you're super progressive, and you'd like, and I'm not talking about socially progressive, I'm talking about, economic models, and that's what you want to focus on for your act of contributing to this, that's fine, but it's your thing. And what I don't want to do, this already happens on Substack, is I don't want to waste a lot of time arguing with like old white liberals about how this should work.
Yeah, but if you really apply the market, the free market rules, the market that is within that community.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yes, it'll take care of itself. That's what I'm saying. It's like, all right, you do you, man. If that's what you think you will, but let's let the market decide. Not like, we will not have any ideological purity tests. Like I said, like I don't care. what we're taught, consciousness, and this approach to that we are taking doesn't, like I said earlier, it doesn't really matter what your political views are as long as you want to stop Trump or resist Trump.
What do you think are going to be the initial resistance? Because as you said before, the business leaders are not, they didn't learn the skills to be activists. They probably
Mm-hmm.
see themselves as activists, and you need somehow those skills and that kind of perspective to really build something that collectively have an impact.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think are going to be some of the internal resistance of people that might share the values and might share the opinion and the vision that, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we need to do something as the corporate sector, private sector,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't
Mm-hmm.
engage or they don't participate or because of
Yeah.
something. I mean, there's going to be a process, a moment of overcoming those resistance from the people that
Yes.
participate, but
Yeah, and I think, you don't join this if you're apathetic. So I'm not really worried about apathy. I am worried about certain things being misunderstood, like that part one of the most privileged things you can have is to not know your rights. And so it's important to know what your rights are as a business leader, business owner, um, and to push the edge, civil disobedience. And I'm going to be publishing very soon like 10 ways that you can be commit civil disobedience as a business leader. Um, and so it's going to take some moral clarity and some courage. And that's going to come up with its own inner resistance because for most people, business and politics don't go together. It's only since Trump came after DEI that LinkedIn suddenly became like a unexpected battleground between the MAGA, usually tech bro and finance bros against everybody else about DEI. And I relish that. It's like, we spend most of our time at work, and that if you're so it's getting okay with like, ooh, can I say that here? And be like, yeah, if you have moral clarity, and especially if you're a privately held company, you can say whatever you want. Now, the market may not like it, but that's the free market. So um, I don't think we're probably going to get many publicly traded companies, that are involved, like CEOs of publicly traded companies. But we may get like some insider system shakers within those companies, and it's important then to protect their. I don't. There's a difference between being a business leader in a giant corporation and being the CEO and founder of a small business or a mid-sized business. But if you're not apathetic, if you have moral clarity, if you have decision-making power, and you have a little bit of courage, I don't expect much resistance to the ideas by the business community.
hmm.
And I expect full resistance. It will be flimsy resistance from the MAGA people in the business community.
And that's
But they're not working with much. Like, I'm not worried about they're going to come up with something like, oh, we didn't even think about that. And this is very blunt, and this is the way I would say it. But if you're okay with a rapist and a seditionist in the White House, your opinions about how business should behave are completely irrelevant to me. I don't trust your judgment on anything if that's the case. And it's the but people like, well, yeah, but he's good for business. He's a rapist and a seditionist. Those are still true. And that's why moral clarity is the number one thing here. And if you're okay with him being those things because it's going to be good for your business, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't trust you. I don't expect that to seep its way into this at all. I don't think so.
And the last question is, what are the impact that you hope or that you aspire that as an initiative you together achieve?
Well, certainly it is to contribute in some direct way to thwarting, redirecting, preventing mostly human rights violations. That's the main thing that I think the roundtables are about. And certainly environmental justice as well is in there. And that, that there's things that we can point to and say we participated in keeping that from happening. But I have a bigger vision of this, is that that we will be responsible for tearing down the false wall between business and social issues, and that by 2028, the next presidential election, we will have enough of a force of people that will be able to have a voice about the broken political system that we have that picks people. The primary system is terrible, and the electoral college is terrible, and these are outmoded systems that are designed to benefit Republicans. I would love to see us have a voice in that, an influence in some of those things. If somebody wants to, that's part of the group, individually run for office, great. That's fine. But it would be cool to find a high conscious political candidate gives us a shout out as part of their, like if Jasmine Crockett, whatever she runs for, if she likes us, that'd be cool. That'd be a good accomplishment. Or someone that is involved in the group runs for office and is able to, influence the system from inside the system. That would be cool as well. But the near term is protect our employees, customers, and communities from these people that are fascists. So,
well, thank you. And just to close, how people can join this? How can they contribute? How can be part of this?
So you can just go to the show notes and see the link to the new Resistance Roundtables. Go to our website, massivechange.co, or just Google my name, and I'm very findable. And if you subscribe to any of my content, you'll see in the footer in every post will be a reference to the roundtables. And my ask to people that are listening to this is, if 10 people, send this podcast episode to them and the link, and come to the next meeting, to the next meetup, which we're going to do them very frequently. And let's keep it simple, and let's keep moral clarity, and let's organize around our strengths, not things we don't know anything about.
Well, good. Thank you so much, Justin.
Thank you. Thank you for the great questions.
Okay. And for everybody, take a look at the show notes, share this episode with everybody that you know, in your peers, your other business leaders. If you know anyone that might be highly influential, also share it with them and see if we can make this grow fast. We're kind of on time, right, to do that.
Yes, right. Exactly. Awesome. Thank you.
And see you next time.